Scott's hair looks like he just had sex with a harem. I don't know what happened.
A harem? I don't know.
No, he's got the Kramer hair going on.
I like it. Yeah. Actually, no, I was very professional yesterday.
When we were in Scottsdale, he went to get a haircut, but he didn't cut his hair. He literally just trimmed his beard.
Why did you get a haircut?
He didn't actually cut his hair.
I want to talk to the locals.
Scott?
I want to talk to the locals. I learned something. I learned something from the locals.
I'm sorry I did that to you. It's fault.
She just gained back the 50 minutes she lost from me.
But you gave me a lot of good ideas.
Whatever Scott told you to do the exact opposite.
I did.
It takes me a while to figure out what he's trying to say, but then once I figure it out, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
This is your host, J Pug and S Squared.
Okay, let's do a proper actual intro and actually start the pod the proper way. Wait, tell me how to say your last name properly so I don't fuck it up.
Nick.
It's just Mackenzie?
Mackenzie, yeah, it's very...
It's normal Mackenzie. Nikole Mackenzie, okay.
Are you really asking how to pronounce her name?
There's a lot of extra letters in it. I'm a Southern man, and it's just when you have a... Yeah, exactly.
He's a Southern Jew. You're not a Southern man. You're a Southern Jew.
Let's get started.
That's an oxymoron. My name is Scott Scarano. I am not an alcoholic.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sons of CPA podcast. We have a special guest this week, Nikole Mackenzie. I don't know her accounting firm. This is bad. This is where I need your help. Nikole, introduce yourself.
So let me just stop you right there. This is Nikole Mackenzie from Momentum Accounting, aka Nix, Nikks.
Thanks, Scott. Nice save. Hi, thanks guys for having me here. It's been a long time coming.
Okay, so how did you come up with the name Momentum Accounting?
I have always played sports my whole life. And so when I was trying to think of a name, I wanted it to be something related to sports because I think there's a lot of parallels between sports and business. I was talking to my friends about how I just started my business and I was trying to come up with a name. And my friend Tamara was like, oh, it sounds like you got a lot of momentum. And I was like, that's it. Momentum. So yeah, if you go to our website, you'll see a lot of what we do is very team oriented. I use a lot of the values and things I've learned from sports and implement that into running my company.
And you're on the U.S. women's rugby team, right?
So yeah, I play Australian rules football. If soccer and rugby had a baby and made a sport, that's how I would describe.
It's a super fun sport. I watch it a lot because it's on very late at night. Because it's normally in Australia. Very cool game. You're basically kicking a football around the field. You try to get it in this, and it's like huge field, humongous field.
Yeah, regulation is 18 people aside, and it is, so you can either handball it or kick it to pass it to your team. You can't throw the ball, so you hold it with one hand and hit it with your other hand. But it's full tackle. I was telling someone one day that I played Australian rules, and he's like, oh, you mean no rules football?
Oh.
That's the perfect name for it because there literally are no rules. It's like a battlefield out there. But it is the most fun sport I've ever played in my life. And as a woman, I have never been able to, growing up, I've never tackled anyone. So like the first game I played, in the first 2 minutes, I just got absolutely pummeled by the biggest girl on the other team.
How cathartic was that?
And then it was awesome. And I was like, all right, well, that means I can tackle people.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
what's the worst injury you've gotten?
So I got my first concussion last season. Yeah. I'd never gotten a concussion before in all the sports I've played. And the championship game a couple of years ago, I tore a ligament in my shoulder. But luckily, knock on wood, haven't had like crazy bad injuries. But my boyfriend is trying to encourage me to. I picked up golf this summer, so he's trying to encourage me to quit footy and focus on golf.
I love it. Okay, so when you started in accounting, you started at a big firm, right?
So I started.
Let's not make assumptions here. I just want to talk a little bit more about footy, and I want to hear one more thing. How many championships have you won, Nikole?
So we've won, our San Francisco women's team have won the last 4 national championships in a row.
The last 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Okay, so talk about how you got into accounting.
Yeah, so I interned at KPMG, Big Four audit. Hated it. I didn't hate it. Everyone there was like, don't work here. This sucks. So I
Always reassuring.
ended up working at a regional firm, smaller firm. When I started, they had 60 people. By the time I left, they had 120, called DZH Phillips. I got to do a little bit of audit, a little bit of tax. And then after 2 years, we got to decide tax or audit. So I went with tax. And then got my CPA license, then found myself looking around thinking, I don't know if I want to do tax season till I retire. I don't know if this is the right decision. I found a Facebook memory from 8 years ago where I had put on there that I was looking for, or I had done a career assessment. I think I had a bad tax season. So
Yeah.
I did a career assessment because I was trying to find out if there was anything else out there that I could switch careers to and do instead. But anyway, yeah, so that firm I was at, they decided to add on outsource accounting as an additional service line after I'd been there for about 4 years. And so I switched from the tax department to outsource accounting. And that's when I like fell in love with Xero and the technology and like helping businesses with their day-to-day operations. And so after I had been at that firm for 6 years in the outsourced accounting department for about 1.5 years, I ended up leaving, briefly went and worked for an ex-NFL player as his personal family office accountant. And then while I was working for him, I started Momentum Accounting. So Momentum Accounting's been around for a little over 4 years now.
How did you decide? So when you're working for the NFL player, how you decide, like, I want to become an entrepreneur and do this myself?
Yeah, so when I was working for him, when I came on, he was completely paper, he was paying like $400,000 a year in accounting fees between his in-house person who had no idea what she was doing and 3 CPAs. Had no idea what his financial situation was. So when I came on, I converted him to Xero, converted him to Bill.com, made everything paperless. And so I was doing a lot of technology implementations as well as cleaning everything up. And so I found myself being hired for a full-time job, and I'd automated everything so much that I was only working like 10 hours a week. And so I was like, wow, if you actually implement the right tools and you do things the right way, you can create a lot of value and do it efficiently. And so it gave me the time then to go out and start taking on more clients. And then eventually I ended up leaving him so I could go focus on businesses. So we do outsource accounting for businesses only. I don't work with high net worth anymore.
So how'd you get
Why
your
do you
first
say
clients?
it like that with so much disgust? I don't do high net worth anymore.
Yeah, we have a couple high net worth clients still, but it's just challenging. I feel like the banking isn't there. It's like trying to set up bank feeds and then just trying to get information from them. They don't have to give it to you. And they're usually not the one trying to get you the information. So it ends up being just like a huge shit show it's just it's just dysfunctional. And so I tried it again. Like right now we have a professional baseball player, and it's just like the same thing all over again, where we can never get the information we need. They don't tell us what's going on. They use this credit card for this business. It's just a hard thing to do outsource accounting.
Yeah, they're not money people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically you're dealing with a shit show client if you deal with business clients. Imagine the worst possible business client that's putting everything on everything, and then you're supposed to clean that shit up.
Exactly.
Okay, so how'd you get your first client?
I got my first client from a CFO, a fractional CFO, Peter. He used to refer clients to my old firm, and then he was tired of dealing with them, and he knew I went on my own. So he referred me, like one of my biggest clients. And they actually, funny story, at that time, I billed and then on an hourly basis, and then I would send an invoice and get paid. This client was in distress when we came on, and they were on the verge of going bankrupt. So I worked for them for a year, and then my invoice had gotten behind like a couple months. and they ended up going bankrupt. So I lost about 20K after I just hired my first person, was my first client. So I learned very quickly not to, that's when I started doing payment up front.
So
No,
coming from a traditional firm where you probably always bill by the hour, how were you able to transition to the fixed fee model?
Trial and error. So I used to do fixed, my first clients I would take on, some were like $300 a month or $500 a month, and it would literally be, there'd be no scope. I would just do a handshake deal that was like, hey, I'm going to do your bookkeeping for you. And whatever that ended up being, it ended up being. So I definitely lost on a lot of clients in the beginning, but over time you start to see the full cycle of what happens over the year. You start to realize like how long things take. And so it's just this constant learning and being
what do you
able
mean
to
how long things take?
or being able to anticipate what a client needs, right? Over the duration of a year is a lot easier now. I can talk to a client and be like, okay, here's over the scope of a year, every single thing I know that you're going to need, and then package that in a monthly cost.
So when you're meeting with a new client, what are the things you're looking for to try and figure out the scope?
Yeah, so we usually go through their accounts payable process, who's paying your bills, how often, what's the volume, do they have receivables, do they have a payment processor, is it automatically reconciled, how often are they looking at their financials, is it on accrual basis, is it on a cash basis, do they have payroll, how many employees do they have, are we doing any one-off things like filing the property tax returns, are we doing
All
sales
this
tax,
data, who does it help? Does it help them or does it help you price it?
understanding that information.
Understand just the scope of the client.
Yeah, part of it is part of it's like understanding their goals and selling, and then part of it is understanding or helping us figure out how to price. So
Okay.
there's this fine balance between not being too like, okay, how many transactions do you have, versus, hey, what are your goals for this business, and trying to focus the conversation on the value you can provide. So we try to get that like transactional data separately. Okay, let us give us access to your QuickBooks file, or fill out this form that gives us all the information, so that we can frame the sales conversation around more of those big picture things.
So when you're doing the sales calls, what's a couple questions that you always ask?
I usually start by having them, I always want to hear their story. I love that part, doing what I do. I love hearing about why they started their business.
I do love to hear why you love to hear their story.
Yeah, I think that's the best part of doing what we do. And then talking about why did you come to us? What are your pain points? There's always, I really dig into if it's, hey, I have someone right now and I'm not happy with them. Because sometimes I feel like they can't always tell you why. And so before I want to take on any client, I want to understand why whoever is servicing them right now, or whatever solution, whether it's them doing it themselves or they have somebody already, of understanding why they're unhappy, to make sure that we can solve that problem for them. What else do we ask them?
So you ask them what their problem is, and then
Yeah,
if you can solve that problem, do you try and attack it right then?
but try not to get too much into the solution straight away, because right now we structure it so Ashley Stafford from our team does like a 20 to 30-minute intro call, and then we build the proposal, and then during the proposal it's usually her and either me or Alan from our team where we actually get into the line items and dig deeper, and then on the call build out the proposal
Oh, how do you do that?
in Go Proposal. So then we'll come up at the end of it, we'll be like, okay, here's the price, how does that feel for you? And then get their reaction. And
How
if
does
it's
that
like, hey,
feel for you?
it's too much, then we can say, okay, let's go back to the scope that we talked about. We talked about cash flow forecasting, and we talked about monthly Zoom meetings and weekly this. Are there things that maybe we can scale back? Or do you have an in-house resource that can run your payroll for you? So we try to align on price, but also make sure we're solving all of their biggest pain points, and really honing in on those
Do
things.
you have 100% success? How do you lose doing that? Like the way that you just described it, how do you ever lose a client that gets that far?
Price.
Still.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, that's either it's too much or they didn't see the value in providing. But you know what? I found it like since what I used to do when I first started, it was just me. And up until before COVID, I used to meet with prospects in person.
Ooh.
I would drive an hour to go meet with someone. And if I could meet someone in person, my close rate was like 90 to 100%. Versus now, I feel like it's only an hour conversation that we have with someone. And our website's crap right now. I want to totally rebrand and redo our website. And so there just hasn't been, it's harder to sell, I think, when you don't have that social proof or case studies. And it's just, hey, I just met you and I've known you for an hour, and then I'm going to look at your price compared to somebody else's that may be a fraction of the price, but haven't put the.
But what if that person came by their place too? You went in person, and that other person did the same thing. And
I don't think people. I don't think people do that these days.
Oh.
So we have a hybrid model where we're 90% remote, but we also will go on site. Like in the beginning, I like to go to the client's office and understand, actually physically see the people that they work with and see how their office is set up and see what their business operations are. And then if they're still paper-based, there's some period of time where we have to go in and actually set up systems and processes and train their team to get us the information we need so that we can so that they can outsource the accounting.
So for more clarity, though, for everybody listening, Nikole's in San Francisco, so I think right now it's still probably hard to go actually visit somebody on site. There's a lot of people everywhere that are trying to go paper to paperless. So right now would be the time to scoop up some of these people that want to have in-person communication but need to get off of paper. There should be a lot of low-hanging fruit for you.
I think that the challenge is finding those people, because most of those people aren't online.
Yeah.
Those people are inside. I just know from the certain clients we have is they're usually getting referred in. We're getting referred in by a CPA or CFO or an HR person, because they're not even.
But then ask them, how are they finding those clients?
Yeah. And then most of those have been person-to-person referrals.
Yeah.
So do you only take clients that are in the Bay Area?
No, we have clients in other states, but the majority of our clients, especially now since COVID, and I've done more stuff on LinkedIn, I've gotten clients on LinkedIn from different states, but most of our clients are in the Bay Area. And I would say before COVID, most of them I had actually met in person.
That's pretty cool. So you keep on referring to like CFOs. So it sounds like you don't do CFO services.
Our core outsourced accounting, controller, backwards looking work, setting up the accounting department. So I just hired a CFO, and I've seen our clients growing, and I want to make sure that we can scale with them. We're building out our CFO service line and trying to figure out our pricing structure with fixed fee value pricing. CFO services can be somewhat volatile in terms of what clients need. So we're experimenting with that right now.
They can be very needy too.
Yeah.
When you're doing those types of services.
That's where our firm, like where you are, we've done a bunch of the bookkeeping up to controller, but we haven't made the leap to CFO yet. And I think that's where we're gonna go to next.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a pretty good portfolio of clients that need that work for it to make sense. And what we're finding now is we're trying to sell those services to clients, which makes the engagement more expensive. And so we're just trying to find this sweet spot between not pricing out clients, but also
You're a very good pricer, though. Your clients are paying good prices.
We do, but we do a lot for our clients. We don't do any tax work, and we're more like low volume or low number of clients, but do more for them. We have 30 clients right now. My goal is I want to have 60 clients, but I want to be doing a lot for all those clients and have deep relationships.
Where did you come up with 60?
Based on, at first it was 50, and I was like, no, 60 feels, because it would double our size.
Do you think you can do that with your team right now? That's the other question. Or how many do you know that you're going to need to hire?
No, I think we would have to add on. We'd probably have to need around 12 or 13 people.
Because I'm going to check back on you on this and see where you're at. When you're at 60.
60 clients, average of $5K a month.
And when you're at 120 clients, I'm going to remind you.
I know.
So how many of your bookkeepers, like how many clients can they service?
Our delivery team, we've got 2 account managers / controllers level people, 1 bookkeeper, AP, AR.
What do you mean by delivery team?
I think of delivery as people that actually perform the client work versus like Ashley Stafford and myself. Like I have 1 client that I work on regularly.
2 people for 30 people is really good though. That's like a pretty solid number.
Yeah, 3 people until I hired Alan, 3.5 people that push out a pretty good amount of revenue. So then we have Ashley Stafford, who's my director of operations. She also does sales and a lot of other things. And then I just hired Alan as our CFO. So like our core delivery team is 4 people right now.
Wow. How much work do you do now, Nikole?
I like client work.
What do you do? What's your job?
What do I do? I feel like I just answer emails all day.
What?
You know what? I feel like I like to think of it as I'm more like outward looking. I like to think that my head's above the water and I'm seeing what's happening in the industry. I'm creating those relationships.
It's a good analogy of like people that are very good at cutting through the really high grass. But if they're very good at cutting through that high grass and they got nobody up high in the tree to tell them which way to go, all they're going to do is cut in circles. They're not going to have any idea where they're going. So you're the one up in the tree telling them.
That's a good analogy. I feel like I'm up there just seeing what's going, but it's fun. I'm golfing. What did I do on Friday? I had a call with Gusto and I was like, oh, I got to go. I'm golfing. So
I've taken calls on my watch while swinging, a cigarette in my mouth and talking on the phone. And actually probably some of my better shots have been on the phone because I'm not thinking about the shot. I'm thinking about the call. You don't have
That's a golf tip.
Yeah.
That's for our other podcast, golf tips.
Golf tips. Just the tip.
How to shoot 110.
Just the tip. Yeah. Just the tip. Nikole, I want to go back. When you were 13 years old, what did you want to do? What did Nikole want to do at 13?
When I was 13?
Yeah.
I have no idea. We were just at the vet today. We took our cats, our Maine Coons, to get shots. And I was like, remembering in kindergarten that I wanted to be a veterinarian because I was like, man, it'd be so great to hang out with pets all day.
No, tell us about these cats.
Yes, so we have very expensive cats. They're about $4,000. I think we shipped them from North Carolina, actually, probably somewhere around your hood. Yeah, but they're a lot cheaper than kids. So every time we pay for something for them, like today we bought food and got that shot, so it was like $300. We just spent $300 on our cats day, but then we're like, Mike and I, my partner, still way less than a child, so it's not so bad.
And your pugs, how much were they?
We spend a lot on them.
They have the good.
One of them was a rescue, so he was free. But yeah, pugs can be expensive. I don't think they're 4K, but they're around 1,000, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I heard you talking about them with Kenji. I was like, maybe I should look into pugs.
Pugs are cool. Great creatures.
So there's a new Netflix animated movie called The Mitchells vs. the Machines. It's so good. There's a pug is like the pug saves the day in the end. A pug saves the day because they can't tell if it's a dog, a pig, or a loaf of bread. The machines. I just gave away the ending. The movie itself is good, though. Regardless.
Sold. Nikole, so you said you want to get to 60 clients. What's the ultimate goal for Momentum? Not client wise, but
Good question. So beyond building momentum, to have a simple firm with few relationships, our team is not at 100% capacity all the time. We offer white glove service and our clients pay us a lot of money for that to get an answer right away or have someone that's actually thinking about their business rather than just reconciling the numbers. That's the type of firm I want to build. I want my employees to have time off. I don't want them to work overtime. I want to get together as a team twice a year and have money to do that. So that's part of it. And then I also want to build a training course so I can make more money, not hire more employees, some passive income. So we don't do any marketing. Once I start turning that on, creating more content and getting the ability to control more inbound, then there's an opportunity I see to make more money in different ways without.
So let's say if you had a
actually
bigger reservoir, a more diverse reservoir of things coming in from that faucet, then you can hone your skills in and start doing that other shit. No?
Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is and there's still things internally that we're building and we're doing, and there's still like Alan, getting him onboarded, and the reason I hired him too was so that I would get out of doing any of the CFO work. It takes a year, 6 months to a year, I think, for a new employee to really understand the client portfolio and understand our processes. And so that's my long-term goal, is like get everything running, and then I can step away and do stuff, like create stuff and do.
Did you
or hang out with you guys?
It's so cool though, because you did this in a very short period of time, going from almost doing everything to now being able to be that person in the trees pointing which way to go. And right now, the way we're going is 60 clients. I don't know how we're getting there, but that's where we want to go. And it can change. Jump to a different tree. That 60 client thing might end up being a forest fire. So you got to turn it around. But it's so cool though. Like, how do you do that so quickly? That's not. I don't expect you to answer, but you can try.
You know what? I read that book, The E-Myth, when I first started my business, and so I was always like, okay, I want to be the CEO.
You want to work.
And then I think I met Will Lopez at ZeroCon, and he was just like, I do whatever I want. Work. And so then I was like, my favorite part is seeing you guys and going to conferences and just hanging out. And like, I think we're all super passionate about what we do. So
what do you get out of that? Don't we all come back with like ideas to guide us all like in the right direction even more?
That's what we do. We meet with each other, and we come back to our team, and we're like, and we're energized, and we have all these ideas. And so I think you need someone like that that's got their head above the forest, that knows that's seeing what's going on in the industry, and they can be inspired by that, and then come back to the team, and then have a team that can actually implement the vision.
Yeah. Being able to translate that vision is hard for some people. I've learned that the hard way.
Well, and I also think like my vision changes all the time. God bless Ashley, when she calls me out on that shit all the time. You told me this, and now you're telling me this, and it depends on the day. And it's easy to get distracted by little things. So it's nice to have somebody else like Ackerman. You have your dad, who's your business partner, and Scott, you have an opposition person.
Yeah.
Chris, right? We need people to put us in check sometimes.
And Ackerman's the one who puts people in check. This guy is getting shit done, dude.
I want to go back to something you said, which I thought was very interesting, where you said you don't want your team to be at capacity. You want them to enjoy their jobs. That's the exact opposite of most accounting firms. They want to get 100% productivity and make sure that they're charging the full amount of hours they can charge their clients. Like, why do you think it's important that the team has excess capacity?
So a couple of things. One is the clients all the time need extra support of things, right? Like things that go out of scope or projects. And so I like having that capacity built in where it's, yeah, we can do that for you. And then the other part of it is when we're onboarding a new client, it's a huge spike in work. I think of it like a glass of water where I want to keep a couple inches at the top so that it's not spilling over. And it allows people, I think, to be creative about solving problems for clients rather than just trying to speed through work. Let's be creative. Like, can we make this more efficient? Is there something I can talk to the client about because I have the time and energy to actually think about it?
I got hard proof of this, and I'm not going to say this to put you on the spot, but for real, no, like you can't say, I don't know any CPA firm that works their people to death can say that one of their team members took one of their clients that was paying $450 a month and brought them up to $1,200 a month without you doing anything. If they have extra capacity, that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, Ashley, what she did, it took about a year to get through, but she went through and talked to every single one of our team and went through every single client, every single thing we did for them, rebuilt their scope, built their proposal for them. And if the price was higher than they were paying, that they should be paying, and their things were going out of scope, then she went and talked to every single client and re-scoped their engagement. And we, over a course of the year, I think it was either 15 or 20%, we increased our revenue by basically doing the same amount of work. So she paid for her salary and then some.
I need an Ashley.
Yeah, how do you do, what did you hire Ashley for? Because I really think that I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I only have time to do 2 every so often, you know?
No,
you have more time than that. You just don't focus.
That's true. That is true. And
yeah, and now she's cycling through them again. Like she just cycles through them.
Figuring managing scope.
It is, but it's 100% worth.
So how does she manage scope? What does she use to measure scope?
That's what you guys use, practice ignition. We use Go Proposal, kind of similar concept.
Do those measure scope? Those tell people what's
when they're out of scope. When you're doing stuff that's out of scope, how does she know that? Is she talking with the team? Is she looking at emails? What is she doing?
Yeah, so the team, so we use HubSpot. We have help@momentumaccounting.com. Anyone emails help at. She monitors that a little bit to see if there's anything coming through that's
interesting.
Weird.
So nobody has their own email address?
We do, because we need it to connect to like our logins and whatnot.
Do they email clients with it?
Sometimes clients email people directly still, because it's a little bit of a change in process, but they're supposed to help out Momentum Accounting. And then if it's an action item.
Oh, that's music to my ears. I'd love to do that. I was trying to introduce that idea to this week. I swear to God, like people think it's so foreign to not have individual email addresses. Like you need.
I think it's a little scary for clients probably at first. I'm just emailing it to the abyss, but if you just respond, so whoever works on that client first is automatically assigned that email, and then you can reassign it if you're like, and you can, it's like Carbon, you can have like at someone and tag them in it, and then we have like a out of scope. What's the word I'm looking for?
Task.
Channel or a column. Where you move it along.
Wow.
Like if you're gonna take it, you move it along.
This email is not within their. Oh wow, whoa, cool.
Yeah, and then the team knows, like Ramona or whatever. Like if a client is, we never did their, like they start hiring employees, and let's say that we only had up to 5 employees in our proposal, and Ramona's like, hey, they just hired. The team keeps us in the loop of what's going on, but then getting into like the time tracking thing, which I know is a controversial subject. We also keep time, even though we don't bill by it. It is sometimes a source of data. If an employee forgets to bring it up and we look at their time, like, hey,
you don't have to be timid. You can speak with authority on time. Here, this is this is open space.
It's a safe space, Nikole.
It's a safe space for time talk. We talk time.
I know time is something that I go back and forth with. I find it useful right now until I can find a better alternative, but I do find the data is useful in just making sure that our
assumptions are correct on how long Ashley's doing to time.
Well, it seems like with 30 clients, it'd be really easy to monitor them a lot. When you got 3,000 clients, it's a little different and a lot harder to do.
For sure. It's definitely, and then you guys are also doing tax returns, right? So it's a little more cut and dry versus us doing a lot of it's just working with the client and then emailing us and phone calls and Zooms, and it's more a little bit hand holding, I think, than just like doing a tax return, which I know you have a blend of both.
Yeah, I think you've just convinced me to track time, because that's all we do, and that's why it's very hard, because some clients want that hand holding and they will pay for it, and most of them are paying for it as a percentage of what they're paying.
I think you eventually get to the point where you should charge all your clients for the hand holding and only 10% actually need it. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's exactly
sounds like what Nikole wants to do.
Like people who work with us just want everything to be taken care of.
Super effective. You only need 60 clients. That's super easy to do. You'd price them all at $5,000, and only 10% of those are super hand-holdy and really weird. They need you a lot, but the rest of the time you're just doing your standard stuff. That's brilliant. That's where the accounting industry is going.
Yeah, I think more and more people are realizing. So like the one person accounting department is the absolute worst solution for a small business. And they get to a certain size where it's okay, it's time to hire an in-house person. They hire one person, the bookkeeper, and that person,
They think they can do the tax return.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like one person can't. You think about it, an accounting department for a bigger company, right? You have a bookkeeper, you have an AP.
What's a bigger company? Like just
you have an AR, you have control, you have a CFO, right? That's the 5 people you need to have in the finance department. And they're trying to stick one person, and that person's going to steal from them. That person, if they leave, all the data.
They're either going to steal for them or they're incompetent and can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to accidentally lose a ton of money. Like they're going to accidentally just not pay payroll taxes because they have no idea what they're doing. So how many people have you seen? Like that used to be an issue with QuickBooks clients just never paying they thought it was an alert that was just a suggestion.
When Xero had its payroll module at my old firm, I remember we did that.
It was years ago. It was more than 4 years ago.
Yeah, but we've had clients know that like don't take their employees off of their health insurance. Like we had one client that was paying like 15 grand a month for employees that hadn't been on their health insurance for 2 years, but they had no accounting department.
Who's looking at that? Even the accounting department, who's going to look at the details of that invoice?
And that's because we started doing the catch up on the accounting, and we're like, why is your health insurance so high as a percentage? Why is your COGS why is your profit margin just plummeting over time? Reconciling payroll, what's withheld versus what's paid. If you're reconciling payroll regularly, then you're finding those errors. Oh. And so those are the things that like clients, when they come
terrible health insurance agent too.
Yeah, and this wasn't the first time that this happened. There's like this in-house lady, and she's, oh, this has happened before in the past, and I'm like, how have you not, like, this had to be like a priority. But yeah, that client probably over the course of 2 years, probably $5 or $6 million that we've delivered in value from finding things like that.
And how much are you charging that client?
Right now, they're paying us $20K a month, but it's a temporary kind of project or engagement. We'll see how it's going. But it's funny because when we first started working with them, they wanted to pay us $500 a month. And then over time, it's just been like one thing after another, improving our value. But they just they don't have any in-house quality people. And so she's just trying to like keep putting everything on us because we're actually doing work and solving problems and that's one thing that's challenging with clients is like convincing them the value of outsourcing versus keeping things in house. And with this client, there's certain people I want to bring in. Like I brought an IT person, I want to bring in a marketing person, and I brought an HR person. And it's getting to the point where only people that are outsourced are doing the work because the in-house team is so incompetent. But the business owner doesn't want to let those people go because they've been there for 15 years. And so it's like a hard position to be in. And it's frustrating because I see the company not making a profit because they're paying so much in salaries and the outsourced people. And it can be very frustrating sometimes because as a business owner, I'm like, that's not how I would run my business.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to advise you when I can. And I'm trying not to let that take over my mind because I need to be running my own business.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta tell them what to do, and if they don't do it.
So you still manage the bigger relationships then?
So that one, I'll come in and come out. So like at the end of like Q4 of last year, I went to that client once a week, and then I pulled out, and now Ramona goes there once a week. But yeah, if a client's gonna pay us 20 grand a month, I'll pause a little bit and get involved, and then eventually you're gotta pull back out of it. But that's why I like having the smaller number of clients, because I can jump in and jump out of client work when it makes sense, helping them implement systems and workflows. I like that stuff.
So when do you think a small business needs to hire someone like you?
When our clients come to us, usually they have 5 or more employees. They want to use their financials to actually manage their business rather than just file their tax return. They have vendors they need to pay. Maybe they're moving from cash to accrual basis because they have third parties using those financials. It's not just for like their own use. Around like maybe $1 million in revenue. Our sweet spot's like 1 million to 15 million.
That's so cool.
When you take them over, who's normally doing the bookkeeping tasks?
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it's the client, which is usually a bad.
So it's the owner.
Why are you charging me $1,500 a month? And I'm like, but our sweet spot is when someone has had a full-time in-house person, and the business owner usually comes to us. And they're like, I'm just not getting the financial information I need.
Is there a certain persona that they're hiring, or is there certain qualities that you usually see in this type of person? If that's your sweet spot, you usually
An
have probably
in-house
run
person.
Yes.
Yeah, I love, this is like the ideal client. On QuickBooks Desktop, paying everything by check, coming to the office, doing everything manually. They spend 20, 30 hours a week, billing by the hour, and then they're like, they can't really explain the P&L to me. Their tax accountant is not that great. So those are good for us because we can come in, they're paying someone a full-time salary. We can come in and be like, okay, like you're paying this person, what is it, 70 grand a year. We're going to do it for the same or less. And you're going to get a CFO, you're going to get AP, you're going to get AR, you're going to get technology, we're going to help your workflows, we're going to save you time. So it really just comes down to implementing technology, right? So we can leverage technology to automate what we do and provide you more value for the same cost of the more.
Have you come up to a circumstance where you started with a client, they were game for all this change, and they're not?
Oh.
Yeah, because we had that happen with a client, and there's another factor that gets thrown in sometimes is the in-house person. When the in-house person doesn't want to change, trying to please the business owner who did wanted things on paper, and then trying to like work with us, just really challenging because the husband was, or the wife wasn't, but the husband was, and the husband was the one who hired us. So we get that a lot where it's two different people, like business partners,
always a
family,
husband,
and
wife
yeah, one wants one thing, one wants this. The daughter wants change, the mother's 80, the mother doesn't, and so it can be really, really challenging.
Yeah,
but I see that a lot with family-owned businesses where it's one person's game and wants to change the business and the other one doesn't, and sometimes it's hard to navigate.
Some of them say they want to, but then they never do.
It's like a partnership. That's why you got to convince all the partners.
Well, what they really got to do is trust. Once the one spouse trusts the other one with all the finances and everything on that side, the relationship with us is usually better. But if one still thinks they want to get involved, sometimes it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's like I have that one client, and I get through the daughter, and it's like all good, and then she's like, wait a second, final signature. I explain everything to her. We convince her she sold, and then it's like, final signature has to go to Judy. And then we have to go through everything all over again, and then Dorothy's trying to explain it to her, and it's just.
And Dorothy's the daughter-in-law.
The daughter, because the daughter, she's out. Whatever you say, it's good to go. But it helps to have her, because if I was just going with the mother, it would be way more challenging. So it helps to have Dorothy, like as the in between that knows her mom really well.
That trusts her.
Trusts me, trusts us, and knows the right way to convince her mom.
We had Marcus on, and he was into a story. He was Marcus. He's intense. He's into it. He's pumped up, and he's building up to this story. It's a post from Nikole from just 3 weeks ago, and it starts with, I'm just going to read the first and the last lines. We just finished a project that will save our clients $228,000 per year. Not to brag, but that shit is dope. Those are the first and the last lines.
That's a great question, Scott.
No, it's not a question. I just wanted to say he didn't really go into the details, but that's inspiration for somebody else's team. Like, my real question is, Nikole, do you get an ROI on all the time you spend on LinkedIn?
I think it comes back to that conversation we had earlier about taking yourself out of the business. So I have these moments of time where I have downtime. And so sometimes it'll be like 4 days, and sometimes it'll be like 2 months before I think of anything. And usually it's because I have the time and space to really think deeply about something we did, or like a story I can relate it back to. But definitely the stories are the top. Like I just went back and looked, and I think either that one or another one got 50,000, and then there was another one that was just story, similar structure, that got like 85,000 views. And out of everything I posted, those are top highest. People love stories. So as far as like ROI goes, definitely every time I've gotten 2 or 3 direct clients from LinkedIn, and then I've gotten every time I post something that gets a lot of views, I get a bunch of referrals. So I'm part of a networking group called Provisors. I meet with those people in person. I did before COVID. Then I also connect with them in LinkedIn. So I think that they see me on LinkedIn, and then they're like, oh, I have a referral, someone that needs a bookkeeper or CFO. So I'm going to refer them to Nikole. I don't honestly post like that often.
How do you see views? Like, I'm looking through LinkedIn, I can't see views. It just says likes, or maybe I'm wrong.
When people are interested in working with you, the first thing they do is Google you, and they go on LinkedIn and they see all this stuff, and that helps her get a business. It's not that complicated.
I put like little mini case studies on there because I try to write blogs and all that crap. I can't do it. But if I can spend 45 minutes or 30 minutes just to like natural language, write out my thoughts, a LinkedIn post, it's so much quicker and easier than trying to put together a blog. So it works for me.
It's an asynchronous way, and then people react or don't. You don't care.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah, people do case studies, right, which I'd love to do one day, but that takes a lot of time and energy into doing a full case study. But so I had that one client I was talking about, where there were so many things that
you're making it effortless though. You're doing a long ass case study with all your LinkedIn posts. This is your case study. You're doing a case study already.
Yeah, I just have to be careful, like sometimes about clients that are on LinkedIn. It's like normally the ones that aren't on LinkedIn.
Or kind of rephrase it, change the numbers enough to where they would think, oh wow, she did it for me and somebody else. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, there was something that you said recently. You said, I feel like I'm asynchronously hanging out. Like you're just listening. And that's what I felt like when I was listening to Chappelle and Joe Rogan the other night. It was like, I felt like I was there with them.
Yeah, that's like when you see a celebrity and you feel like you know them and you're like, hi. And then you realize that they don't no idea who you are.
You have engineered a machine like an athlete. You attack this profession, building a firm as an athlete would so quickly. Like with precision.
Scott's the ass kisser.
I he really is. I love talking to him. He just like
he pumps you up.
You down and he builds you
just
up.
For podcasts, but it's good. Like I would pay him to just say things to me, like positive things. It's good.
Every word of it, because if I didn't mean it, I wouldn't be on here.
Great.
I knew golden would come out of this. That's why Nikole was a must. I would not budge.
Nikole's mom. Follow Nikole on LinkedIn.
You just interrupted her.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say that like that personality test thing we did. I think my number 4 significance, which basically means you like people to like you and to give you compliments. So I love the compliments. You can just keep them coming.
No, yeah, but really, no, for real. It's not. Jason wants to just say a little fuck you, like get information out of that's. You want to get information, but I want to tell people, I want to celebrate the fucking good that they're doing because they usually don't. I don't celebrate the good I do. So somebody else better celebrate. That makes me feel good. Like usually sometimes it's bad.
You celebrated for what you do?
Everybody does, dude. You love it when I compliment you and how good you do. Like I see your face when I say how good, like of a putt that was.
I'm actually coming to San Francisco in 3 weeks.
What are you doing
here? I'm actually going to play Pebble Beach for 4 days. I'm taking a client, and my brother's coming, and we're actually taking a team member who's been here for 40 years, and he's super excited. It was like part of his bonus, kind
40 years?
Yeah, maybe not quite. Oh yeah. About 40 years.
Longer than you.
Wow.
Because he started as an intern.
What's his name?
He's like late 50s, but he's so maybe 35 years. He's been here a long time.
Wow.
He's super pumped. But my question is, what's like the biggest thing you think is missing if we had this piece of technology? It would make your life so much easier in the accounting space.
Oh my gosh, that's a big question.
I'm here for the big questions. Scott, why don't you say something nice about Nikole while she thinks?
No, I think you got to make it effortless, Nikole. Think of something at ground zero. What would be the one thing that I could take and use that would make everything easier for me? Just take that wand, go to ground zero, like break that shit down. Like you said, break that shit down because you can attack this question. You've got this shit. You know the answer, and then once you get the answer, oh my God, it's gold. Nikole just came up with $1 million idea on our podcast.
You know what? I feel like I'm gonna come up with the answer, and then I'm gonna think of it like an hour later. Dang it! That's
You
it.
said your brother's helping you do app development. What is he developing?
So we are developing. So the problem I see on the end delivery. So we do all this work in the background, right? The bookkeeping and all of that, and the client never really like logs on to Xero, or the team doesn't really. Let's say we do have a monthly call and someone in our team talks to the client. I just wanted a standard way to have a delivered product that the client
You've already
could
lost
use.
me. He said one thing.
Focus.
No, I'm saying that if you're trying to pitch something to me, you've already lost me. If this is going
I'm
to
not
solve
trying
a
to.
big problem.
He asked me what I'm building. You're asked what the problem that I'm solving is not something necessarily that could be the biggest thing that needs to be solved.
I think you are actually creating a system that can create dividend revenue. So I think it's a firm solving problem.
I'm solving
something that's.
I'm trying to create recurring
you.
revenue through. I don't want to call it advisory because everyone uses that, but it's a systematic way for our team to have a conversation about operational data in our client's business that's important to them.
Help guide the client in the direction that they're going and help them along the way.
In an automated way. It would start with like understanding what KPIs are important to the client, and then having a dashboard that they log on to daily or weekly, and that everyone on our team understands and can explain to them, here are all the drivers of your business. And that data could come from Xero and multiple different data sources. So that's the
tool.
Of it.
That's really
the tool. But it's more than just, it's a process and a technology.
I think you're creating a system for you that uses that tool as a way, because the way you described it, the way you showed me, it was like you could use anything in this, but the way that you're building it from the ground is, this is the system, this is how we build it with the client, for the client, so it shows them value, so they want to pay for it. And this is the tool we're using to give it to them.
Right.
And you're creating that tool yourself because you get frustrated with all the other ones out there because they want to do everything to everybody and none of them do anything.
Yeah, and it's like I want to have a first-year accountant or an intern be able to have a conversation with the client, and as long as they're trained on what those numbers mean one time, then they can have a conversation with the client every time they have a meeting with the client. It gives them a framework to work off of, and then you guys, it hasn't been released to the mainstream yet, but Gusto's got this whole people advisory thing they're trying to do. So there'll be some stuff that I want to pull in the dashboard there. That's people data, Gusto data, and then mixing that with financial data.
People like people data when they're your-sized clients because that's the biggest, one of their biggest data points, depending on what they do, and that's going to be really useful, I would think.
Yeah, and every industry is different, so you have to, or in every business is different. You have to, a lot of these tools you can plug it in, but it's just out of the, like, it doesn't give you any useful information. You have to understand what drives the business. And so there's this mapping the data correctly with understanding what they want. And you really have, like, a lot of these things you can't just plug into Xero file. You have to configure the data in Xero or QuickBooks correctly.
You're an orchestra. There's the instruments there. There's the music written. A person is using the tech to create this. It sounded like a conductor.
Yeah.
You need a conductor.
We are just conducting the financial data. Okay, Nikole, tell us where we can find you on LinkedIn and on the internet, and if we want to follow you.
Oh, and now we also have music. We will have music. So this is the point where every single episode will have some music that might start playing. I don't know.
Oh, I hope there's music.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be good.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Nikole Mackenzie.
This has been amazing. You've been great. I'm sorry you had to put up with Scott for this long, but
he always has to feel like he almost is like my mother. He feels like he has to apologize for me.
Thank you, Nikole. This has been fantastic.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun. Good to see you.